At this time of the week, we go back to the workers' cottage to indulge our learned friend Graham, basking in the triumph of WA, but from there to Labor in New South Wales and the Liberals in Victoria, and the precarious numbers, I might add, for the Morrison government in Canberra. Richo, good evening to you. New South Wales Labor, they talk about dead men walking. Is Jodi McKay a dead woman walking?
Well, I'm not sure if she's dead, but I think we are going to have to start reaching for some of those heart assists because I think she's struggling. And, of course, it's not hard to work out why. I mean, you'd love it to be a lousy government, but the Berejiklian government's been a relatively good one. Hard to criticise. And so Jodi's had a really hard road to hoe. But there has to come a point where if you're not making up ground, where if you can't get there, you've got to think about whether you should be staying.
The Labor people I talk to,
that stage.
Graham, the Labor people I talk to say there's a culture amongst New South Wales Labor that they think they can't win. When did that happen when you were around?
Yeah, I think that there's too many people accepting defeat.
That's it.
And that's one thing I've never been able to accept.
No.
But apparently in the modern game, you accept it far too easily. Well, I mean, what you've got to do is stand up, always fight, Alan. Always. Doesn't matter how tired you are, whether there's a breath in your body, you get up and you have a go.
Good on you. Well, Victoria, the parliamentary party there re-endorsed this fellow Michael O'Brien, who you wouldn't recognise in a police lineup. There is massive support for Peter Credlin to move into the parliament and the leadership. But people don't surrender their seat easily, not when you're on $200,000 a year doing nothing except saying here a couple of times a week. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's always hard to get people out of Parliament. I mean, they battle so hard to get in. Once you get them there, you can never get the buggers out. Unless the public throw them out. I always found it very difficult to get rid of them. Unseating a sitting member is tough. But in Victoria's case, when you've got someone like Credlin with such enormous talent and so much public support, and you've got a leader that no one knows and no one cares about, it just cries out for someone in the Liberal Party to stand up and do the job. And I hope someone does, because you always want to make sure there's a contest. Now, in Victoria, it is Labor's best state. In state, federal, doesn't matter. Labor does extraordinarily well in Victoria, so Peter Credlin would have an uphill battle. But at least there'd be a battle. At the moment, it's just a joke. Labor just keeps rolling on.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick one, we've got to go, but in Canberra, interesting development there because in the last federal election, the Libs won 23 out of 29 seats in Queensland, 11 out of 16 in WA. So in Queensland and WA, the Libs won 34 seats, but in the whole of Australia, they only won 77. So in the other 106 seats, the Libs only won 43. Now, there are problems, I think, down there on numbers, on the maths for Scott Morrison.
Oh, there's definitely some problems for him. But the problem that we've got is that people just like him. And I don't know how he has a likability factor. He's the average bloke sitting in the suburbs with an ordinary house, 2 kids, the good wife. He's got everything. And that's hard to toss, really hard. And you back it up with the fact that he's actually a good bloke, which is not always the case with our Prime Ministers.
I mean, not everybody's in a $10 million house at Dover Heights as you are, but nonetheless, we appreciate the fact that you've done very well. Now, off you go for your MSG
Mate,
tonight.
all I'm doing is, during the capitalist period, I'm doing my best.
Well done, Richo. Always lovely to talk to you. There he is, Graham Richardson, and we'll talk to him next week.